everyone and welcome back to my channel. Y'all know what I'm about to do. I'm gonna do number 2 of my relationship series. Last time we had waiting but active, and now we're gonna talk about God is BAE. For those of you who don't know what BAE means, it actually stands for before anything else. I want to share with you a little bit of my experience about this topic, and I shared a little bit in my last video about when I came into a relationship, I would put the guy above God and it being the wrong balance and stuff. But today we're gonna go a little bit deeper into that topic as to why God should be your BAE, your before anything else. So let's just jump into the video. So in 2015, my sister put this poster of my photo with a quote on my Facebook timeline. And it was so cute, and that quote really just hit me hard, just like last time I shared that some things just burn into my head, like be the person who the person you're looking for is looking for. This quote also just really touched my heart in a sense that I never forgot it. And it said, "A woman's heart should be so lost in God that a man must seek him in order to find her." And I always just really kept this, like, okay, I have to go after God, and then God will put a man in my life at his timing, in his plan, and just whenever he wants it. And I was looking around at BSSM and I saw so many people getting into relationships, but also so many people getting out of relationships because they were in an identity crisis. And that's basically what BSSM first year was like. It felt like we were being stripped as a heart surgery, that our heart was being cut open and we were crying every day, and God was doing so much, but we didn't see the end result yet. We didn't know why he was like hurting us so much. But at the end, we were being repaired, and it was so beautiful what God has done to my heart. And I would never want to go back to who I was before first year, because God really worked on my heart. And he told me so much about just waiting in your single season and why it is so important that we do something and why we should make God our BAE. As some of you might know, I'm a wedding videographer. If you want to check out my videos, go to Show Me Videography and just give it a look. I watch so many wedding videos just to gain inspiration, and my favorite part of the wedding videos is always the vows.
Lieve Dien, wie had ooit gedacht toen we elkaar 6 jaar geleden hier ontmoetten dat we hier nu zouden staan om elkaar ons jawoord te geven? Het is allemaal begonnen met een lijstje. Daardoor raakten we aan het praten over relaties. Ik wist namelijk heel goed naar wat voor man ik op zoek was, en daar had ik een heel lijstje van gemaakt.
I'm so blessed God sent you when my life came crashing down, and I see you as a true miracle. But I'm happy to tell you that right here and right now I can become one flesh with you and start the life I'm meant to live. I promise you I'll try my hardest to leave my bad past behind and make a good future with you.
Wat voel ik mij bevoorrecht om vandaag jou trouw te mogen beloven. Een aantal jaar geleden had ik dat echt niet verwacht, maar ook zo gehoopt.
Lieve Daniela.
I just love the vows, because it actually is the story of the couple. It's like, hey, we were here once we were single, then we found each other in a crazy way, and now God is on this and we are getting married, and it's the most beautiful day of our lives. And it's so, I just love that. Last week I saw a video of a couple, and what the girl said really just hit me, and it has to do with what I'm sharing today, and I'm gonna read it to you. "Long before you were a thought in my mind and a feeling in my heart, you were someone else's. And more important than anything, you were, are, and will always be, first and foremost, not my husband, but a son of God." And this is what I'm going to share today. I'm going to share about why it's so important to put God as number 1. Because before you are going to get married, and you are, if that's God's purpose on your life, you're going to get married one day. And before you will ever be someone's husband or wife, you are first and foremost a child of God and a bride of Christ. And it's quite a romantic story what Jesus did for you. Do you know? It's funny because in my last relationship, I was asking the guy, hey, if our house would be on fire one day and I would be inside the house and you would come home to a house burning, what would you do? What would you do? And what he said kind of shocked me. He said, I would call the fire department. And I said, why won't you just go into the house and save me yourself? And he was like, well, then I might die too. Then we're both dead. Like, that makes no sense. And I was like, wow, that's so not what Jesus would do. Because Jesus actually came onto this earth for us. He wanted to save the world, and he did. And actually, what Jesus would do, he would not only go into that house. Actually, the house, I see this as a metaphor. It's like I'm in a house of sin and it's on fire because I deserve to be dead. The penalty for my sin is actually dead. And we're all sinful people. But Jesus came in and he did not only save me and he brought me outside of the burning house, but he also gave me a new house and he died in that house because that's what I deserved. I deserved to die in that house of sin, but he died for me and he rose from the dead. And now he made a way for me to come into connection with God. And that was actually not possible because of sin. God is so perfect that we can actually not come to him with a sinful heart. That was the whole Old Testament. They had to do all kinds of burnt offerings and stuff like that because blood was covering sin, but it was not like really taking away the sin. It was just covering it. But Jesus' blood, it paid for everything. And now we can come into relationship with God and we can actually just have a romantic relationship with him. And that's so awesome. Jesus' romantic story for us is beautiful. And that's something that we have to realize in our single time. What Jesus did for us and how he should be our number one. And that is the kind of love I found last year. I've always been a Christian, but last year I was like, God, I'm all in. I'm single and I'm waiting, but I'm all in. I'm gonna focus on you. Do what you wanna do in me. And that for me was such a sacrifice because I was single and I was seeing so many people in relationships. So it was really hard not to focus on, God, I want a boyfriend. God, I want a boyfriend. Actually, God, I want a husband. But actually be like, okay, God, this is just a time for you and me and just show me stuff in this single season. But Jesus is actually my first love and he should always be our first love. God created me and he's the one who first loved me before my mom even loved me because he knew me before he created me. He knew I would exist one day. He already loved me. And that's so crazy to think of, that the God of the universe actually loves me and he loves you and he loves everyone because we're sons and daughters of God. So if a person is really important in your life, you mostly tend to go to them for advice. Maybe you know someone who you always go to. It might be your parents or it might be a good friend or a best friend, and you always go to them for advice, like, what should I do? And maybe even relationship advice. Maybe you're like, I met this guy, I met this girl, and what should I do? Like, do you think they like me or not? And that person might give an opinion, but mostly when we're in love, we're kind of blind, you know? That's why my 2 relationships failed, because I did have advice from people, but I was still listening to my own feelings. And I gotta tell you, sometimes our feelings lie. Sometimes our feelings is not truly what's happening in our mind, but we just lock our mind up because we wanna just go with our gut. We wanna go with our heart's feelings, you know? We wanna be loved, so why not get into a relationship? But if you actually have God as your BAE, as your before anything else, and you're like, God, you know, I met this guy, and I actually want to know what you think of it. Is it your plan? Is it your time? Is it your place for us to meet right now? Is this the one? And there's still our choice. There's still a moment where God's like, if you want this, my daughter, I will support you. Most fathers will not just say like, hey, I don't like that guy, don't date him. But they're like, okay, I love you. And even if you make a mistake, I will still love you. But I don't think you should do this, but it's still your choice. So there's still a choice for us to get into a relationship or not. But God's actually like, I love you. And yes, he will give you confirmations when it's actually the one. And it's so important to have him on number one so that you will actually ask for his opinion on some people you are liking or that you are dating. And actually, I didn't really ask God for advice in my past relationships. So I did a BSSM, and this was crazy because everyone at home was like, you're gonna meet your future husband there and like it's gonna be amazing. And I was like, I don't want to do long distance, but everyone's telling me that I'm gonna meet my husband there, so I will, I guess. But I was open for it, so I was still focusing on Jesus but looking around. And actually everyone was doing that because these were all people who had the same just morals and the same ideas of God, and it was just so beautiful to meet people who actually think the same way as you do. But one time really struck me forever. I was in worship, and worship is awesome. I don't know if you've ever been in a worship session of Bethel, but amazing. I was in worship, and I was actually, every time I was closing my eyes, I saw this boy that I liked at the moment. I was like, God, why am I seeing this boy? And I will close my eyes again, I would see the guy again, and I was like, what? And then the third time I closed my eyes, I saw the boy, but I saw him on a cross. And I was like, God, this is so not right. Like, why am I seeing this guy plus seeing him on a cross, like the thing that Jesus did? Why am I seeing this? And God was basically like, because you're making him your priority. You're making him every thought in your mind. You're just focusing on him, and you should focus on me. So I was like, oh my days, that was crazy. That was so awful. I'm sorry, God. Like, I completely let that guy go, and I was like, I'm gonna focus on you again. So I just repented, and that's just how it is. Like, if we put our focus on a guy or on a girl we like, it could actually distract us from what God wants to do in our single season. So if we don't bring it in front of God, like, God, should I date this person? Should I even like this person, or is it not my time? Clearly, this was not my time to look around. It was really my time to focus on God. I really understand that I can only work on our relationship if I focus on you. You are my first priority, and not only in my single season, but also when I meet my future husband. You should still be your focus when you're in a relationship. Because when you actually do this, when you focus on God, you will be running, and you'll be running towards God. And I've seen this quote everywhere, but you will be running towards God, and one day you will look next to you and you'll be like, hey, there's a really cute guy running next to me. You keep on running, and you're figuring out like, hey, this guy actually is in one line with me, and you hold hands. So you're running together, but you're running towards one goal, and that's God. And it's so much easier if you're in one line with someone in a relationship. You're both focused on God, and it's like a triangle. So you have this triangle. I'm gonna draw it right here. Above it is God, and under it is you two. And if you guys are working on that line towards God, your line towards each other will grow stronger. God will actually provide for that line to grow stronger and stronger. This was a realization that I had. You're not half a person without someone. You're not in a single season, you're not half a person. It's not half of my heart. It's you actually have a whole heart, and you're actually a real whole person because Jesus makes you whole. But on your wedding day, it's not half plus half is one whole person. You do say the two will become one, but it's actually like this. 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3 chords equals 1 chord. That's some math right there. But it's actually true. It's you and your future spouse plus God equals a 3 chord that cannot be broken. So you're actually one. It's you, him, or her, and God together as one. Just have fun in your single season. Just go on dates with God. You can actually date him. You can do a walk in the park and just talk to him. He would love that. Us single people actually have something that married people don't have anymore. And that's undivided time with God. We actually have so much time in our single season to just work on our relationship with God. We don't have to worry about another person yet. But we do want to do that one day, but this time is really just to focus on your relationship with God. And while that grows stronger, God knows your desire for a relationship. And if you actually give that back to Him, He will send your future spouse in the right place at the right time. Because you know, an incomplete man plus an incomplete woman doesn't make a complete couple. He or she will not complete you. They can actually try as hard as they can to complete each other, but that's not their job. Completion is Jesus' job, and complementing each other is our privilege. And that last thing was not my wisdom. I actually read that in this book. So if you want to read more about how you can be intentional in your single season, this is actually a lady in waiting. So if you're a guy, I'm sorry. But it's such a good book, and I've not been through it all, but while I'm reading, I'm having so much revelations. This book is actually focusing on Ruth and Boaz's story in the Bible. So it's so cool how to see that small story in the Bible can actually be so much broader and can actually teach us so much. So just remember that in your single season, it's a time to be active, to be actively praying for your future spouse. I'm gonna make a video about that as well, but also just to enjoy it, to be with God and to go on dates and to just work on your relationship with Him, run towards Him, and one day you will find someone running next to you and you can hold hands and run towards God together, and it will actually be a blessing in your life. So a message for your future spouse is actually, dear future spouse, find God, find yourself, and then find me. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked this series. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe and put on the bell, and I will see you in the next video.